What's going on, guys? It's Planet Crouton coming back at you again with another video. Hopefully you guys stayed seasoned and you didn't get too stale. Today, I have a warrior guide for you for Season of Discovery. Isn't it so frustrating when you go on YouTube, you think you want to play a warrior, and you try to look up a warrior guide, and there's nothing there? Well, don't look further. I will put another warrior guide on the internet so you can play a warrior efficiently. Now, I must say that I do not follow meta, and I know that Ashbringer is the best in slot weapon at the moment. I may finish Ashbringer at some point, however, this is a build specifically calibrated for me. This is my setup that I use. You don't have to use it. You don't have to want to use it. I'm just trying to help some friendly warriors that maybe want to get into playing warrior. Maybe some of the things that I say you will use yourself. We will be going over raid consumables, talents, gear, runes, and maybe some stats. The first thing that we're going to go over is some talents. For my talents, I use 3 into improved rend. I use 2 in improved heroic strike. I use 5 into tactical mastery. I use 2 in improved overpower. Could probably take 1 out of improved overpower and put it into anger management. We'll get into that in a moment. I use 3 into deep wounds, and I use 2 in impale. Moving over to fury talents, there's a few things that you can do here. First and foremost, always use 5 into cruelty. That gives you critical strike with all melee weapons. That is very important. We'll get into that in a moment. Now, for the 5 that I have into booming voice, you don't have to put 5 into booming voice. You could put a couple into improved cleave. You could put a couple into unbridled wrath. You can move all of your talent points around. However, I choose to put it into booming voice because it gives my battle shout a 5-minute CD and my commanding shout a 5-minute CD instead of only 2 minutes. So it really helps out when you're in boss fights or in raids or wherever you're at. Obviously, you're going to want 5 into improved battle shout for 25% more attack power. You're going to want 5 into dual wield specialization, or if you are two-handed fury, you'll take all 5 out of here and either put it into cleave or two-handed weapon specialization. You have 2 into improved execute to reduce the rage cost of your execute. Now, I do want to take a moment and explain how this works. So, the minimum rage cost of your execute is originally 15 rage. Okay, so when you have improved execute, that lowers the rage cost of execute to 10. Now, if you look at what the tooltip says, it says attempt to finish off a wounded foe, causing 600 damage and converting each extra point of rage into 15 additional damage. So that means at 100 rage, you are getting 5 times 15 more damage on your execute. So that would be 75 extra damage on your execute and minus 5 rage cost for your execute. And rage is going to give you 25% melee damage for a few seconds after you are a victim of critical strike. Doesn't really matter, but it unlocks flurry. We'll talk about that in a moment. Death Wish is your main cooldown. Death Wish increases your damage by 20% and it makes you immune to fear effects, but it lowers your armor and resistance by 20%. It lasts 30 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. Now, there is a tier set bonus from Season of Discovery called the Conqueror's Advance. It will reduce the cooldown of Death Wish by 50%. And with the 30 seconds that Death Wish is up, that means that you only have 60 seconds between Death Wish being up and Death Wish being down. So that is a really good tier set bonus. I've been trying to work it into my character, however, we'll talk about that in a moment. Flurry is the biggest DPS increase that you will get out of the Fury Tree. It's going to increase your attack speed by 30% for 3 swings after dealing a melee critical strike. That ties into what I was saying earlier in the video about taking Cruelty. Critical strike is one of the most important stats that a warrior needs in order to deal damage. We'll talk about that in a moment once we move over to stat weights. Bloodthirst is also a very large DPS button that you will push. It does 45% of attack power on a 4 point. It's originally a 6-second cooldown, but I have 4-piece Dreadnought, so that lowers it by 25%, meaning it only has a 4.5-second cooldown. Moving over to runes. I use Endless Rage. I've seen some use Taste for Blood. I use Endless Rage because more rage equals more good. Blood Frenzy, because you will have Sanguinist Shoulder enchant, which means that you will have Rend up all the time to get the full benefit from 4-piece Conquerors, dealing 15% extra damage, while any nearby enemy is afflicted with both your Deep Wounds and Rend. So that is the reason why you will take Blood Frenzy, so that you can stay in Berserker stance and be able to use Rend. For your waste, you will want to take Blood Surge. This will have a 30% on every Heroic Strike, Bloodthirst, and Whirlwind to make your next slam instant cast, and it will strike with both weapons. For your leg rune, you will want to take Consumed by Rage, which will give you the ability to enrage after you exceed 60 rage, and it will allow your Whirlwind to strike with offhand melee weapons for the time that you are enraged. For your feet, the Enrage regeneration, I guess Intervene is good for tanks, but Rallying Cry is the best one that you're going to have. It increases the health of all raid members by 15%. It's a great cooldown to use in raids where you need that extra health, such as Council and Scarlet Enclave, or such as the Meteor on High Commander Beatrix and Scarlet Enclave. So that is a really good cooldown to have for the raid to stay alive. For your wrists, you are going to want to use Rampage. It says go on a rampage, increasing your attack power by 15% for 30 seconds. It is a 1.5 minute cooldown, meaning you only have 60 seconds of downtime between casts of Rampage. Wrecking Crew, I guess, is not bad, but it's not recommended. I did use it for a while I was gearing, however, I do not use it now. I use Rampage. For your hands rune, you are going to want to use Single-Minded Fury. This is going to give you 4% attack speed, stacking up to 5 times. Every time that you auto-attack a target, the same target, over and over. Once you auto-attack another target, the effect immediately ends, and then it starts stacking again. If you are two-handers, you will probably want to use Quick Strike. I haven't looked too much into two-handers, so I believe Quick Strike is the rune that you use. For your finger runes, now this is where it gets a little tricky, because here it says that I have 2% mischance and 20% mischance with whites and 2% with yellows. However, when I put my dagger rune on my ring, these stat weights do not move. See, on this pane, they do. So I think that it's just an add-on that needs to be updated, because they don't move here, but they do on the other panel, as you can see. And I do have 305 fist weapons as well, as you can see. So that is a little strange when I went and looked at that. It does move here, but it does not move here. For your ring runes, you'll just use the rune for whatever weapon that you have. If you have 2 swords, 2 axes, 2 maces, whatever, you'll probably want to use defense specialization. It will increase your defense. Now, your cloak runes. This is where things get beefy. Shockwave is mostly for tanks. Sudden Death. I used Sudden Death for a while. I'm not really sure if it's good. I didn't really use it that much because it just gave me another button to push in my already big rotation. So Fresh Meat is the one that you would want to use very specifically. Fresh Meat gives you a 100% chance to enrage the first time you hit somebody with Bloodthirst, Mortal Strike, or Shield Slam, and it will cause you to deal 10% increased physical damage for 12 seconds. And then it also has a 10% chance each subsequent time. Moving on to gear, as you can see, it's kind of a mess. I have a bunch of things going on here. First and foremost, every warrior and every class in the game, really, you want to have a very wide assortment of trinkets. As you can see, I have about 20 of them here. Kiss of the Spider is a really good trinket out of Naxxramas. It drops off of Maxina in the Spider Wing. Eye of Diminution is really good for if you pull threats. This drops off of Thaddeus in the Construct Ring of Naxxramas. The Mark of the Champion is decent for Naxxramas. It's the best in slot trinket for Naxxramas. Badge of the Swarm Guard. This is actually really good. This trinket will deal damage to everything around you. And it does scale with weapon damage and cooldown as well. So you can pop this with like Death Wish and Rack active, and it will take benefit from the additional damage that gives you. So this is a really good trinket for big AoE fights. Dungeon farming content. Me and a friend will pop the Tinker boxes, and we'll pull the entire live side of Stratholme, and then we'll both use these and whirlwind it all down in about 5 seconds. So it's really good for that too. Speedstone. This is a really decent trinket if you have nothing else to use. I use this for a long time. It improves your chance to get a critical strike with all spells by 2%, and it increases your attack speed by 2%. It's a really nice trinket, especially if you have nothing else to use. Burrow's Shell, I suppose, could be good for if you have to survive or something. I don't really know why I keep it, probably for PvP or whatnot. Blackhand's Breath is from the Onyxia Attunement questline. Again, another decent trinket if you don't have anything else to use. I would get it definitely, especially considering how important crit is to Warrior. We'll explain that in a minute. Life-Giving Gem. This is one that every single Warrior should have. This trinket, I got it because nobody else wanted it, and I've actually been really spoiled by it. If you have any problems surviving in PvP, PvE, just anywhere that there's a lot of damage intake coming, this will heal yourself for 15% of your maximum health, but that's not really what we're worried about. What we're worried about is it will also increase your maximum health by 15% for 20 seconds. So that is an extremely important trinket, especially for fights such as Solastraza, to where you need that extra health to survive the whelp explosions, such as Mason, to where you might need that extra health to take the marks that he puts out on players. It's all around just a really decent trinket, and with that extra health, you can really get a lot of things done, and you won't die. So, especially with all that raid healing that you're getting. So it's essentially another rallying cry for just you. So you're going to be getting 30% maximum health, which is essentially a last stand when you're not in protection. So if you have any problems surviving, I would use this, and it will give you that extra survivability. Moving on to the next one, we have Wrath of Ray. Now, this trinket is a rare drop off of Prince Thunderon in the Crystal Vale. This trinket is really nice, especially, again, if you're just starting off on Warrior. It's a nice one to have. It improves your chance to get a critical strike with everything by 1%. It improves your chance to get a critical strike with all spells by 1%. And it also has an on-use effect that will increase your strength by 92 for 20 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. So that is a really nice trinket to have. Next up, we have Wood-Carved Moonstalker from, I believe this is from the Night Elf boss in Demonfall Canyon. There's also another one in there that you can get called the Chalice or whatever it's called. I don't quite remember. On equip effect, it gives you +4 weapon damage, and it has an on-use effect that will increase your strength by 60 for 15 seconds on a 1 minute 30 CD. Germinating Poison Seed, don't know why I have this, it sucks. Moving on, we have Hand of Justice. This is the downgraded version of the Hand of Justice trinket from the Eastern Plaguelands questline. This is from Blackrock Depths. If you're just starting out, I would get this trinket. It has 2% chance on melee hit to gain 1 extra attack, and it has plus 28 attack power. Next up, we have Diamond Flask from the Sunken Temple questline. It will restore 9 health every 5 seconds. Don't care about that. What we care about is it increases your strength by 75, and it lasts for 1 minute. So this trinket is really good, especially if you have those longer fights to where you need just a longer duration trinket. This trinket will get you there. What really sucks about it is it has a 6-minute cooldown, and you normally don't have 6 minutes before boss fights. You're normally getting to a boss before this trinket is off of cooldown, so you could not be able to use this every boss fight, which is fine. Get on my tiger here. Darkmoon card Decay, I used that when I was leveling. It's not really great. And these two are just random greens. Got people moving in my way here, so. So for the 2 trinkets on my character, we have Slayer's Crest, which will give you plus 70 attack power, and it will increase attack power by 280 for 20 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. This is one of the best in slot trinkets that comes out of Naxxramas. It drops off of Sapphiron, which is the second to last boss. It's a really good trinket. I use it on my character. The plus 70 attack power is really nice. I mostly use it in tandem with Kiss of the Spider for that 20% attack speed bonus. Next up, we have the upgraded Hand of Justice. If you are a level 60 warrior, this is going to be one of the first things that you want to do if you don't want to farm the Blackrock Depths for the Hand of Justice. You will want to go over to Eastern Plaguelands and pick up the Scarlet Activities quest, I believe it is, from Leonid Bartholomew the Revered inside of Light's Hope Chapel in the Eastern Plaguelands. It says 2% chance on melee or ranged hit to gain 1 extra attack. Plus 52 attack power. So that is a very good trinket to have. Band of Unnatural Forces. This is all around an amazing ring. It has everything of what you want as a warrior. It gives you plus 1 crit, plus 1 hit, plus 1 attack speed, and plus 46 attack power. This will drop off of Lothep and Naxxramas. This is in the Plaguewing. Band of the Dreadnought. Now this is where it gets a little bit difficult to start obtaining some of this gear. At least when I went and did my ring questline. This drops off of Kel'Thuzad, the last boss of Naxxramas. The problem with that is there's only 1 ring that drops for every class, so every class is normally trying to roll on the ring because every class can use the ring token that Kel'Thuzad drops in some fashion. It says plus 25 strength. It has chance to be dodged reduced by 1%, and it gives you a 2% chance to get an extra attack on the same target after dealing damage with your weapon. So it is essentially a second Hand of Justice. Now we're getting into our tier sets. Now a couple of key things is that with the 6-piece Dreadnought set, you're only going to use this in Naxxramas, especially when you get your tier 3.5 pieces for your character. You're only going to want to use this 6-piece inside of Naxxramas. If you're not inside of Naxxramas and you're in Scarlet Enclave, you would want to switch out a couple of these pieces of Dreadnought gear for maybe some 2.5 gear or 3.5 gear. If you don't have 3.5 gear, 2.5 gear will work. However, most warriors are going to be using 3.5 once they unlock the ability to access the items. So for me at the moment, I've been away for a while, so I haven't really messed with a lot of these tier sets. So for me, I have Dreadnought Greaves, I have Dreadnought Tassets. Girdle of the Mentor is best in slot belt for warrior, besides the Girdle of the Reborn Champion from the Scarlet Council inside of Scarlet Enclave. So once you access Scarlet Enclave, you will want to get the Girdle of the Reborn Champion to replace Girdle of the Mentor. But if you don't have that, Girdle of the Mentor drops off of Instructor Vesuvius and Military Wing of Naxxramas. Moving on, we have Dreadnought Grips. These are quite nice, especially with the plus 15 strength. We have Toxin Injector. Now, with your ranged weapon, there's a couple of options here that you can go with. For me personally, I would want Nerubian Slavemaker, but I really like the extra stamina that this gives. However, I should probably use Nerubian Slavemaker for the critical strike on it and also the extra attack power. So if you have Nerubian Slavemaker, I would probably use it over Toxin Injector, or I would get... Where is it at? Or I would get Soul String if you don't have the Nerubian Slavemaker. The gun off of Oro works as well. It gives you 18 attack power and critical strike. I do have this gun here sitting in the bank. I just decided to try Toxin Injector. It gives me extra stamina so I can stay alive. For weapons, now this is a really important area here. For your melee weapons here, tying back into your Fury Tree Flurry, it increases your attack speed by 30% for your next 3 swings after dealing a melee critical strike. Now, for a really long time, I was using my weapons just like this with the Gressel Dawn of Ruin and the Hungering Cold. Now, they say that faster weapons in Season of Discovery is not great, and your slam damage and whirlwind damage will be lower. It will be significantly lower. However, that's not going to allow you to keep flurry uptime as well. With you having a below 1.00 attack speed, you're going to be able to keep flurry up pretty much all the time, and it's never going to be down. So you're just going to be able to absolutely bombard people with melee attacks. So that's what that is. Now, I've been trying out Mercy since I got it in our guild run the other week before my computer died. I have been trying it out, and so far I like it. It has a higher damage per second, and it gives me critical strike and hit with a on-hit effect to increase whirlwind damage by 20% for 2 whirlwinds. So I have been trying that out. However, if you want to keep flurry up more of the time and have flurry up for a larger percent of time, I would get the Hungering Cold or a quicker offhand just so you can keep that flurry uptime up. Because the longer that you keep flurry up, the more attacks that you're going to be getting, and the more that you're going to be able to keep flurry up. It has a lot of stats on it too. It has +3 swords, a Hand of Justice proc, and attack speed. So it's quite a nice sword. However, I have just been trying out Mercy, so I have been doing a few things with Mercy and just giving it a shot. However, if you don't have Mercy, the 2 swords that you're going to want to get are Gressel Dawn of Ruin. Gressel Dawn of Ruin is one of the hardest hitting swords in the game, besides anything that comes out of Scarlet Enclave. It has a 3.00 attack speed. It has 73.2 damage per second, 10 agility, 2 attack speed, and 1 dodge. So this sword is one of the hardest hitting swords in the game if you have not got into Scarlet Enclave yet. So it does more damage than anything else in the game besides what is in the new raid. I would get this above anything else that is in Naxxramas because even with the tier set bonuses, you're not going to be doing any damage unless you have a big slow sword like Gressel Dawn of Ruin. And if you don't want a slower weapon, if you don't want a faster weapon, there are a couple of options for a slower offhand that come out of Naxxramas. Most notably, there is Hatchet of Sundered Bone off of Noth Plaguebringer in Plaguewing. There is Misplaced Servo Arm off of Grobulus. It will give you an on-hit proc with a 2.9 speed. There is the Castigator off of Thaddeus, which will give crit, attack speed, 1% dodge resist, and plus 16 attack power. So that is quite a nice one. I think that's it out of Naxxramas. I do believe that's it out of Naxxramas for slow weapons. If you do want a faster weapon on your offhand, an option if you don't have the Hunger and Cold is Widow's Remorse. Widow's Remorse is only a tiny bit behind the Hunger and Cold. It only does a few damage points less. So if it drops and you need a faster offhand, if you want to play a faster warrior, you could get it. There's not going to really be anybody that wants it just because everybody plays a slower warrior. So with the weapons, you can really do a lot of things. If you don't have Mercy and you want a slower warrior, I would use this combo here with Gressel and the Hunger and Cold if you want a faster warrior. If you don't want a faster warrior, I would use Gressel and Castigator, the Hatchet, or the Misplaced Servo Arm. For my bracers, I am using Dreadnought Wrists. These are quite good. They have attack speed, a lot of strength. They're okay. For my chest plate, I am using the Scarlet Chest Plate off of Balnazar in the new raid. It has plus 50 strength, plus 24 agility, a whopping 4% attack speed, and 2% crit with all attacks. For your cloaks, now there's a couple options that you could use for your cloak here. Shrouded Dominion is the best in slot cloak that comes out of Naxxramas. However, there are a couple of alternatives until you get that cloak, most notably being Cloak of the Scourge, which comes off of Noth in the Plaguewing of Naxxramas. There is the Cloak of Concentrated Hatred from the Prophet Scurum in Ahn'Qiraj 40 man. There is the, one second here, Cloak of Firemaw off of Firemaw and Blackwing Lair that increases attack power by 52 with a little bit of stamina on it as well. So there are a couple of options. I do believe that there is a new cloak out of Molten Core on Major Domo. This one here is also an option. I never got this. I didn't even know it existed until I seen it drop in one of my raids about 2 weeks ago. So this one is also an option. It looks pretty okay too. I mean, it's not completely ugly. For my shoulders, I'm using Dreadnought shoulders. These are a decent pair of shoulders. However, if you are in Scarlet Enclave and you have 6-piece Dreadnought, I would probably replace this with the 2.5 shoulders and maybe use the 2.5 boots along with that. I don't have the 2.5 boots, so I can't use that. So I just use 6-piece all the time. Kaigi's Clasp. Now, this is a really good neck. It comes off of the Marilla 3 boss encounter in Karazhan Crypts. It is extremely contested because it's best in slot for pretty much every melee class and some ranged classes until some of the new items in the Scarlet Enclave. However, some alternatives to this neck is Stormrage's Talisman of Seething. Now, if you need critical strike, I would maybe use this. It has 2% critical strike, 1 attack speed, and plus 22 attack power. I only use Kaigi because it has a little bit of everything on it. It has 1.5% crit on it. It has 1 hit and plus 26 attack power. Something extremely important to note is that for every point of strength, you are gaining 2 attack power. For every point of agility, you are gaining 0.05% crit. So 1 agility times 20 is 1% critical strike chance. For every point of stamina, you are gaining 10 health points, increased in Naxxramas, of course. And intellect and spirit really do nothing. I wouldn't use those for warriors unless you're, I don't know. I can't think of a reason that you would want to use that for a warrior, but if you do, you do. For my helmet, I am using the tier 3.5 Lightbreaker Great Helm. I should be able to get the 2-piece this week. I just got back to World of Warcraft, and I just got back to recording, so I'll see what I can do about that. For this helmet, it gives you 51 strength, plus 15 agility, and plus 19 stamina, with plus 1 attack speed on it. I choose to use one of the ZG emblems out of ZG on my legs, and one of the rapidity emblems from Dire Maul. Now, that's probably not a very good idea. However, I kind of just like to balance it a little bit. I probably should use the ZG emblems, and I probably end up doing that. But I haven't done it yet. Again, I've been away for a while, so I'll see what I can do on that. Next, getting into enchants. The enchants that I use are minor speed increase, because with the single-minded fury, you're going to have plus 20% movement speed all the time, and that's practically having a Zanza up without having a Zanza up from the ZG Island reputation. For your Dreadnought Tassets, I use the ZG Idol enchant from ZG. For Dreadnought Grips, I use plus 15 strength from Superior Strength. For Dreadnought Wrists, I use strength plus 9 from the plus 9 strength enchant. For Scarlet Chestplate, I use all stats plus 4. For Shroud of Dominion Cloak, I use plus 5 agility from the, I believe that enchant comes from the Karazhan Scroll enchant, I think. For Dreadnought Shoulders, now I haven't been able to get Exalted with ZG, and I haven't been able to get a Might of the Scourge out of Naxxramas. You would ideally want to use either of those two, either the ZG plus 30 Might enchant, or the Might of the Scourge from Saffron. And for my helmet, I'm using, again, plus 1 attack speed from the Librams out of Dire Maul. However, you probably should just use the Idol from Zul'Gurub. It'll probably gives you more DPS. I'll probably end up switching over to that just because that I have enough attack speed off of my gear. I think that I'm pushing 20% attack speed from all my gear. So that's not really going to make a big difference if I get rid of 1%. It's just going to give me more damage and attack power. So for your rotations, there is a couple of things that you can do as far as that goes. So for rotations, there's a couple things that you can do here. You could open up with Death Wish, and then you could run in, also open with Wreck, and then you could use Rampage, and then hit Bloodthirst. You could hit Bloodthirst, Whirlwind. You ideally want to have Rend as your first damaging cooldown so that you're getting that 15 damage from Conqueror. So when you go in, just have Rend on the mob already. So you hit Rend, and then you would hit Bloodthirst, and then you would hit Whirlwind. Now, if in between those rotations that you have a Blood Surge proc, if I can get one here. Super unlucky right now. What in the world? Okay, so I just got a Blood Surge proc, so that means that your slam is going to be instant cast, just like this. So, if you get a Blood Surge proc in between pressing Bloodthirst, Whirlwind, Rend, Heroic Strike, you will want to prioritize hitting Slam to exhaust that proc so that you can get another proc. Now, with 2 slower weapons, this slam proc is going to hit a lot harder, so you're going to want to prioritize it a lot more if you use slower weapons. However, with faster weapons, you can draw it out a little bit if you have a Bloodthirst GCD to press, or maybe you have Execute up. Again, this is just what I play. I don't really care what anybody else plays. I kind of just do what I want to do. So this is how I play my warrior. Again, you could do it completely different from what I do. So getting back into it, it's Bloodthirst, Whirlwind, Heroic Strike, and then Slam and Execute when the ability to press them has become open. Again, you're going to want to press Rend immediately if you are using the shoulder enchant for Sanguinist, which I am, which is the 4-piece 2.5 set. You will want to use Rend immediately as you touch the boss to get that 15% damage increase. So that is it for the rotation. Now we can get into some raid consumables that you should use. So for raid consumables, I use a couple of different things, most notably being Mighty Rage Potion. Limited invulnerability potions are always good if you're taking physical damage, if you rip threat, tank dies, whatever have you. Flask of the Old Gods is extremely good in Scarlet Enclave if you are taking a lot of damage. However, you could use Flask of Madness, but it's not 50 attack power doesn't really make a huge difference over having 1,000 extra health. And the stamina bonus also does stack with the Zul'Gurub stat bonus as well, so it might be closer to 1,300. Free action potions are good for stun fights. It's always a good idea to carry individual Winterfall Fire Waters in case the raid doesn't drop a Cauldron. I use Elixir of Giants and Elixir of the Mongoose. You could switch Mongoose out for Honey Badger, and I'm not sure if there's an alternative to Giants. There may be, but I use these two just because I'm used to it. So, and the fact that the Honey Badger is like 10 gold per, so I mean it's not really worth it to spend that much gold if you're not going to be doing a parse run. Consecrated Sharpening Stone. Never put these as Horde. Never put these on your main hand weapon. Never ever put these on your main hand weapon. You will always want to put these on your offhand weapon only. The reason being for that is if you put this on your main hand in a raid, it will replace the Wind Fury ability from Druids and Shamans, and you will no longer benefit from Wind Fury, which is a huge DPS increase. Wind Fury will also give you more rage on auto attacks, and it'll pretty much be up all the time. Moving on, Savory Deviant Delights. These aren't really required. I just use them so I can transform. Blessed Sunfruit. This is a really good personal food that you could use. This comes from the Quartermaster in Eastern Plaguelands for the Argent Dawn. An alternative, you could also get the newer food from Phase 8 from the auction house. However, I choose to buy these just, if the raid doesn't set a flask down, I could pop one of these and just I don't have to sit down and eat. It just increases your strength immediately, and you don't have to sit there and eat. It helps when you're in faster paced runs. Dragon Breath Chili scales with spell damage. It's kind of fun to use. Greater Frost Protection Potions. These help in Naxxramas along with Shadow Protection Potions. Again with Sharpening Stones, only on your offhand weapon. The Tinkerbox Nitro Boots will allow you to get out of raid mechanics or 2 raid mechanics faster. Greater Mark of the Dawn, it just increases your stamina for a little bit. And there are more consumables that you can use. However, those are the ones that I choose to use. There's probably more that I'm forgetting, but those are the ones that I use. Okay guys, that is about it for this video. Thank you for watching. Don't feel free to subscribe, leave me a like, it really helps. And I will see you in the next one. Try to stay crispy, stay seasoned, and don't get too stale. See ya!